welcome back. And as was mentioned earlier in the show, the focus of this conversation is talking about the state of manatees in Belize. And joining us for this conversation, we have research biologist from Sea to Shore Alliance, Jamal Galvez. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here again.
Now, Jamal, gladly, we're having you at a time in the year where we're not going to be talking about how many manatees have been killed for this week, because last year we had that conversation quite a bit. But I do want to know, just in terms of your yearly wrap up for 2015, the picture that was painted in terms of how the manatees the population was faring off.
Sadly, not great news to share. The numbers had gone up from the year before as well. Last year we racked up somewhere around 40 something dead manatees.
Wow.
Which is quite an increase as well. But that was earlier part of 2015. The latter part of 2015, we didn't see much activities. Probably as a result of all the efforts that we've been putting in along with the BTB, holding these tour guide workshop countrywide, meeting with these people, being in the public eyes, installing a new boat channel, getting signs out there. So a lot of effort have been put in, and we're hoping to see if it carries over into this year. We've already had 2 dead manatees for this year already, sadly. Wow. But I'm very optimistic and hoping that the behavior from later last year would continue throughout this year now.
You said a new boat channel?
Yeah, there have been issues with a boat channel at the river mouth. Basically, boaters travel along their own path. Manatees are basically confused as to where the boats are coming from, because there's not a set path in which they come from. The guy from San Pedro may come this way, the guy from Belize may come this way. So they're basically it's kind of like on a freeway, being on a freeway blindfolded, not knowing where the traffic is coming from. Along with the BTB and the Coastal Zone Management and Authority at Forestry Department, a bunch of other supporters, the Port Authority, of course, we installed a channel, a marked channel with buoys on there, so boaters can be aware of this is the channel. And if they stay on that channel, eventually manatees are going to realize, you know what, that's the boat channel, let me stay back. We've seen it work in places like Florida, so we're hoping to have the same results here in Belize.
So if they get an idea of where the boats will travel, they'll stay away from it?
That's normally, just on repetition, just constantly hearing boats going on that specific path, they eventually change their behavior and stay away from the boat.
Now, where are the areas that we're seeing the majority of the manatee deaths, and where creating a channel would alleviate the situation?
The leading area is Belize City, mainly because of the heavy traffic, the tourism activities, and Placentia is second in the country. Not to mention their tourism impacts haven't even been started yet with the Norwegian cruise lines. We're expecting heavy traffic in that area, expecting impacts on manatees in that area, the population in that area. So sadly, I can say that it possibly will be an increase in manatee death if measures are not put in place earlier, sooner rather than later, and if these people that are actually using these waterways aren't abiding.
So where in Belize City? You're talking about the mouth of the river?
The mouth of the river.
By the Bliss Lighthouse?
No.
Or all over?
Mainly because that's the area that the river tours. Heavily traffic people are going to see manatees, seeing all these animals on the river, and going to the ruins. And once they're finished, like I've seen it every time in the morning time, you see the boat comes up very slowly because they want to see manatee.
Yeah.
Go up the river, the tour is finished. In the evening time, they're just rushing to get back to the ship. Forgot that they left 12 manatees there 2 hours ago. And I often share this story. I said, if you have a tree that you can take $100 from every single day you can take $100 off this tree, would you cut it down? No, they said no, right? But so it's no different from going there to view manatee, making the money off of it, 100% profit, because it costs nothing to go and actually see manatees there.
Yeah.
Why destroy that very same thing that this is such a sure financial assistance? No?
And I like that you touched on that, because I was going to bring back the fact that you said you've gotten support from the Belize Tourism Board. The intrigue of the manatee population seems to have grown a bit. I see some great videos of tourist experience with manatees, both done through tours and some that just naturally happen while they're swimming in Key Cocker, for example. Is it now part of the plan in terms of marketing the experience with Manatees so that tour guides can have the value or can add the value that you're speaking of?
Our goal is not to take away the opportunity for tourists or for citizens of Belize to utilize this special species that we have in Belize. That's the goal, is for them to not just utilize it for 5 years, but to have it around for many, many years, that they can actually benefit from it many, many years. And it's not just financially, it's the role it plays to our ecosystem. You want to keep these guys around if you want to keep a balance, and it's important to Belize, like I mentioned. Currently, there is talks of reclassifying where the Manatee falls on the endangered species list. They want to remove it from endangered to threatened.
Right.
Okay.
Sad. People are saying, "Oh, it's great." It is our ultimate goal for Manatees to be removed, but we have to be honest with ourselves. We can't just have it removed and say, "Oh, our work has been done. We have successful." Me personally, when it's off the endangered list, it's because I want to say, you know what? I am satisfied, or the country is satisfied where the population is to be taken off. Because currently, with the issues that we are facing in Belize and the problem with the population, we're nowhere close to being should be taken out of the endangered list.
We have spoken before, though, about the size of the population in Belize, and we have one of the largest populations in the region.
Correct.
Of the Antillean.
Of the Antillean.
1,000. It was about
Correct.
1,000, right?
Correct.
Has the population grown? Is that the reason why we're talking now about the shift in the listing?
But
no,
that's a classification for Florida, Belize, the
Actually,
entire
the
region,
entire-
right?
Actually, our issue is that there have been the Fish and Wildlife have been very general in their statement. They're saying that, well, what happened is they're pressured by a lawsuit for them to revisit the status in accordance to the Endangered Species Act to see if it actually fits. And they're only taking into consideration Florida and Puerto Rico. The problems, the population there may have been increased there, but they say the Western Manatee, which the Manatees in Belize fall under, not taking into consideration jurisdiction outside of the U.S. Our troubles in Belize are very different from the troubles in the States. Our population is different, and it's very important. So for them to take it off the endangered list, it maybe seems, taking it off the endangered list makes it seem that it's not as in much trouble as it is actually in. And we're having an increase in debt, so there's no way that we support it. Sadly, they were sued to revisit the law to revisit where the Manatees fall on the Endangered Species Act, and they weren't given enough time to actually look it through. And the data that they're using, the model that they're using, is from 2012, as opposed to the new model that will be out soon, and wasn't taken into consideration.
Now, when you're talking about the change in classification from endangered to threatened, what does that mean for us in Belize? Because you're talking about the various regions. In Florida, there might be a healthy population, or in Puerto Rico, and we've seen the challenges that we have here. Even though you've said many times that we perhaps have one of the larger populations. What does that change in classification really mean for us? Does it mean that people can consume it, or the protection changes significantly, that people can do more in terms of harm to the manatee?
They're saying that the protection levels won't change for the manatee. They will be still protected as is, but there are loopholes in the law, and also to take it down from endangered to threatened gives the perception that this animal is okay. There's not much need to protect it anymore, and majority of manatee conservation work is done from grants and proposals and fundraising. People would be more inclined to support an endangered species, to protect an endangered species, as opposed to a threatened that seems more stable. Our population is nowhere close to stable, not biologically. We haven't seen the numbers have gone up drastically enough for us to actually say that. What they're doing in the States may be good for them in some sense, but organizations in the States don't agree with them either. They feel that their population in Florida isn't as stable enough, because within 100 years it can actually go extinct if not continue protected at this level. And our pressures in Belize is totally different, and it continues to increase, and currently not enough has been done to protect the species, and if we're taking it down another level, less will be actually done to protect them, and it may actually be the same thing that can push our population to extinction. Just the mentality of, oh, the manatees are all right now, we don't need heavy protection anymore.
And I want to build on what you're saying, because obviously a lot of the work that is done in Belize is funded by outside sources. So if you are not eligible for grants or funding, outside funding, what does that do to the work? Because we spoke at one point about wardens being a part of, a part of the structure. When you talk about the hollover mouth there, where you can have wardens that are there to guide the boats and remind them, but the cost in terms of that. So what would the loss of international funding do for this program that we have here?
It can be very, very tragic in terms of, as it is today, while manatees are on the endangered list, it's not easy to secure support to do the work that we do. It's not easy at all. And with if the reclassification actually goes through, because right now we have 90 days to send in our comments or concern, whatever you want to say about before they actually make a final decision. So we are going to be writing them through official channels. We are going to try and reach out to the government, so it actually goes through the government to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Commission to give our concern as to our population, which should be a responsibility of the country to want to do. And we're fighting to get a whole lot of the population as it is at Endangered with the support that we have. And imagine the support being going down financially. But it's not necessarily, for us, it's not a financial, we're not looking at it as financial situation. We look at it as we can actually lose the population just because of the change in mentality. We spent all these years trying to convince people why it's so important that they change their behavior, it's so important that they acknowledge Manatees' presence, for them to change their status, to give people a mentality, you know what, they're okay, we don't need to slow down as much, their population is all right. And this assessment that they're doing isn't taking into consideration this fragile and important species of that Western manatee that we have in Belize.
Now, we've seen over time how you have taken up quite a bit of the challenge of getting the awareness out there as to the threats to manatee. And as you mentioned, last year you had to move into intervention mode because of what we were seeing, the frequency of the deaths. For this particular year, what do you envision being your priorities? It's simply focusing on maintaining what was started at the end of last year and also keeping this lobbying going?
I can say that what I can say is it's important that we maintain what we have established, because we know in Belize consistency is very important. The minute you stop doing something, everything crashes. We're going to continue about monitoring, continue our presence, continue awareness, which is key, because tour operators and tour guides tend to change a lot. That's what I found out. This year I meet 100 tour guides, and next week another new set of faces. So it requires consistency, but we're not settling for what we did last year. We have to try and reach for more, because it is needed for us to go to the other level. Our job, our work is going to be bigger once the cruise ship terminal in Placencia becomes active. It means that our attention is going to be needed in Placencia as well. That area has the second most manatees in the country, and that's a very, very important ecosystem for manatees as well. And as other than Belize, is one of the places you can actually see a manatee very easily. Like constantly just being in the water, you see a manatee. And with the heavy boat traffic that we're expecting from the tourism activity, there'll definitely be implications to the populations there.
Now, I wanted to touch on what are some of the major challenges. Obviously, we're talking about humans being a major threat, but are we also looking at issues like habitat, degradation of mangroves, etc., and areas? What are some of the challenges that we have to work on collectively to ensure that the manatee is able to survive besides the human behavior?
Correct. Habitat destruction is very important to manatee, and it's one of the other bigger threats to manatees in Belize in terms of development, global warming, the change in the environment. But global warming and stuff like that, we cannot really do anything about the seagrass growth maybe changing. It's just not, those are natural changes, but the ones in regards to like dredging large portions of the seagrass beds which manatees need in order to survive, tearing them mangrove, destroying habitats that manatee actually live. For instance, the Harvest Key was one of the most famous places to go and see manatees. And now it's a cruise ship terminal. It's becoming a touristic terminal.
Yeah.
So all of those things are taken into consideration. The pressures that are applied on the population are human impacts, and we're killing them with our boats and throwing garbage in the water, and then we're taking their food, destroying the place that they actually call home. It adds a serious amount of pressure to a really fragile population.
Yeah, yeah.
And in terms of legislation, do we have sufficient legislation to actually protect them at this point?
We don't, and that's the other sad thing, because we don't. If the population is removed from the endangered list, we don't have much to fall back on.
In terms of pushing for legislation.
Exactly, and especially since we have a Wildlife Protection Act that's been around since 1981, and we're in 2016, and that the penalties and the act have been revising for a long time. Ever since I was a boy, I've been hearing this thing. I've been revising. I don't know what it takes for a law as simple as the Wildlife Protection Act to be passed. I don't think it's going to change any political boundaries. I don't think it's going to affect any political party. It may probably benefit them as opposed to affecting them. So I find it hard for them, for me to grasp, to understand why is it that we're not putting measures in place. Why don't we have laws that protect our animals better than we are currently doing so?
I recall last year we had a conversation with you, and you spoke about being engaged with the Minister of Environment at the time. That was pre-election. Have you made any request in terms of meeting with the new minister and talking about making sure there is the proper protection for the manatees under our own laws?
I haven't made any official or formal intention to speak with him, but that definitely is a part of our approach for this year. I'm familiar with the faces that are in there now, Minister Figueroa and Dr. Colin Young. Very familiar with the two individuals, and they're environmentalists as well. These are guys that understand. So I think that we can definitely communicate and have an understanding of way forward. But definitely, I am planning to meet with them specifically for us to send out a letter to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to address our issues, for them to maybe reconsider the way they actually wrote their statement, saying that West Indian Manatee as opposed to the Florida Manatee, which they're taking into account their population, but they're saying West Indian Manatee, which throughout its range, which includes Belize, and they're not taking into consideration our troubles, our threats, our small population.
Now, we know that there is a public call at this time for comments on the possible delisting or reclassification of the West Indian manatees. How can people get involved and assist in this?
We are going to, my organization is going to be speaking to the Fish and Wildlife Service in regards to Belize. We're hoping to write a letter through the government of Belize to send to them an official letter from our country. But individual Belizeans can actually write their concern, and it'll actually help more than as opposed to just having me or the government writing a letter. It shows more interest from a country standpoint. This is important to all Belizeans, not just to government officials or NGOs or conservationists. If you care about Manatee, if you're a tour guide, you're involved in tourism. Tourism is important to your life. Write a letter. Anybody can write to send their comments and concern, and all of them should be taken into consideration. And I think the more comments and concern that there is, saying that, you know what, you guys need to really revisit this and take into consideration Belize's population, as it is an endangered species, and we continue to assume so. I'm not, even if they change it, my mentality is that this population is endangered because it's what I know. So the more support, the more people that write, would be better for us in Belize.
Now, we've had these conversations about manatees for quite some time, but let's talk a little bit, just focusing on why they're important to the sea and to us.
Yeah.
Manatees are important to the country of Belize because they're the only one of the only nutrient recyclers in the waterways, the only herbivorous mammals in the waterway. They're one of the only big animals that eating up the seagrass. They keep the seagrass in check. And because they eat 9 to 10% of their body weight, they eat basically all day, they excrete a lot. The excretion is food for small fishes, big fish eat small fish, and we eat big fishes. Not just fishes, but crustaceans, lobsters, crabs, shrimp. So take away the food supply for those species, fish, whether it be fish, lobster, crab, whatever. You'll definitely see a decrease in fisheries product because of the lack of availability of food. And in regards to tourism, Manatee, if you want to see an Antilla Manatee, you come to Belize. People in Africa know this, in Australia know this, anywhere in the world, Belize is recognized for this. And many tourism, the country, a lot of individuals, a lot of citizens are employed by tourism. So a lot of people take home a salary from tourism. A lot of people make money from actually going to see Manatees, pay school fees, and it trickles down. You may look at it as, oh, he's just a tour guide, but the tour guide buys fuel. He buys so many plates of food to take for lunch. He buys water, he buys soda, he buys. So there's so much in it, and people look at it as just the big picture, but there's so much to contribute to your country. So it's important that we keep them around. Yeah.
Now, who all have you engaged? As you spoke about, you had the BTB on board. You're going to be approaching the government. We know you have some private sector support as well. What has it been like to keep the momentum going? Because when we see a lot of deaths, people start speaking out. But at this time when it's a little bit quiet, what do you do to keep people engaged?
And that's my personal task. Because I know it can be easily taken for granted. You don't hear anything, no one is dying, everybody relax, drop their pens. I had to constantly be in communication with them, calling them, giving them updates, let them know what's happening, where we're at. But honestly, they have been very supportive. The BTB have been on board. They have been very, very supportive in all our initiatives. The Coastal Zone Management and Authority, the Forestry Department, Port Authority has been very instrumental as well, and they play a key role. And these are all people that hold a part of the puzzle. You take any one of them out of the puzzle, we're not going to be able to become successful in what we're trying to do. But it's just basically communication, and having the individuals that they have in the position are key to me, because they are actually very active individuals, very individuals that are very interested in actually getting something done. So it's not as hard as having somebody that's not interested in the species. So I must commend them for that, and the support from local communities as well as businesses like Boeing and Boeing continues to push, continues to support the best way that they can. And we're hoping that what they're doing can be an example for other businesses, not just for Manatees, but maybe for other species, because assistance is not just needed for Manatees, but for a lot of wildlife and other efforts.
Yeah. Nice. So what else would you like to tell people about how they can help to save the manatees?
Be a good citizen. I mean, own what belongs to us. Manatees in Belize belong to us. There are a lot of people in other parts of the world wishing that they have what we have. Like people always say, we vacation. We live where other people vacation. And be a good citizen. Don't throw garbage in the waterways. Try not to set gill nets in long spans of sea. It's dangerous, not just to manatees, but to a lot of other wildlife. And be careful when traveling in the waterways. If you ever see an injured, sick, or dead manatee, call us. 615-3838, and we'll come out there. We'd appreciate any assistance. We've continued to make our way into the public and invite us into the schools or wherever you are, and we're going to come in here and share some information with you guys as well.
All right, and the website to submit comments?
You can go through our website, www.seatheshore.org, or look it up at U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services.
All right, so let's all do something to protect our manatees. They can send in comments saying why they don't support the reclassification. Excellent.
And if you're unsure about it, you can contact me. We can talk more because sometimes, like I told a lot of people, cite and say, "Oh, that's great. Manatees are off the endangered list," and writing me, congratulating me. So I get that they don't really understand.
Yeah.
And
it would be a good thing if the reality was different.
Correct.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we hope that people who have shared the passion that you do, and even those who get to enjoy having these animals as a part of our ecosystem, will join in to support you.
And thank you guys for having me and for constantly supporting and helping getting the word out there. I do appreciate it.
All right. We're going to go ahead and take our break, and when we come back, we'll have a very special feature on healthy food in Belize, so stay tuned.